seen around what we were facing in 2014 as a marketing team. We were changing our whole business offering at the time. The mobile industry, which had the 20 years heritage in, was quickly becoming a commodity sale. There wasn't a lot of value added in that industry, and we were looking at ways to transform the way we were dealing with our customers and expand our product offering out to our existing base. So we expanded into a whole offering around ICT products. Quite an easy transition actually in terms of product transition. So we had a whole new business building within the organisation, which within what's been about 3 years now, we're now a £200 million turnover in its own right. So we've actually created that business over the last 3 years as a way of safeguarding our future growth for O2 business. So that was a kind of major change in the background. We realised that our customers were changing, and you've probably all seen the presentations around marketing technology. And I won't bore you with the buying cycle and how that's all changed, and people looking online and doing all the research before they speak to the sales guys. We were aware of all that change at the time, having to find ways to embrace the technology and work with that changing behaviour. And being B2B, we're always the poor relation, so there's always a lot more support for the consumer sides of the businesses that we operate in. So there was always felt as though there was a limited resource internally as well. So in lots of ways that gave us the opportunity to be quite autonomous and do our own thing, which is actually a huge positive. In another way, it led to huge frustrations within the team just in trying to get support from other bits of the business. So all these challenges were all kind of hitting us at the one time, and it was a big period of change for the team to cope with. Apologies for this, it hasn't scaled properly. But what we decided to do was there's really four key strands of the work streams to the transformation. And at the centre of that was all around our technology stack. And we spent about a year, 6 months to a year, reviewing the technology that was out in the marketplace, going through all the RFP and procurement processes, getting finance on side, all the stuff we need to do as a large corporate. And we selected 2 platforms, one to hold a platform to hold our data, which we could control ourselves in-house on salesforce.com, and the second was the marketing automation platform, which in those days was pre-Oracle, but it was still called Eloqua. So we adopted that platform and integrated both. As I say, that was quite an easy decision in lots of ways, given where we were trying to get to. We could understand the benefits that would bring, but what it led to then was a whole load of other work that we hadn't really probably properly scoped out at the time when we started out on this. We had to go back and look at our content or our comms strategy. What we realised very quickly was as soon as you started entering into a world of new technology, you want to move to an always-on programme. You want to change all this way of working from campaigns into programmes. We realised that actually all the platforms we had really weren't fit for purpose. So not only did we have to integrate new technology platforms, we actually had to go back and completely redesign, redevelop and relaunch our web portal. The website just wasn't up for the game that we had in mind. So that in itself becomes, I think at one point we had something like 48 projects running as part of this transformation, just to try and make it. And every time we seemed to uncover one and get an answer for it, it uncovered another 2 or 3 that we didn't have an answer for. So that continual effort to keep on top of the projects as it came through. So at first for O2, we basically took the whole site down, redesigned it, relaunched it. It was fully optimised, multi-platform, got it back up there. It gave us a great chance to go back to all bits of the business, including the product owners, the strategy guys, talking about what do we actually want to be known for. So it gives us a chance to really change the perception of O2 based on what we have, what content we have online. Back in 2014, we didn't have any business social media platforms at all. Hard to believe now in this world, kind of fast forward 3 years. We didn't have a Twitter feed, we didn't have a LinkedIn feed, we had nothing on SharePoint, we didn't do any YouTube video. We built all of those at the same time, rather boldly, at the same time as building and relaunching our website. So, but what it gave us a chance to do again was go back to the drawing board with our agencies, our trusted advisors, and actually speak to them around if we were going to get this and build it from scratch, what would it look like? So actually it gives a really nice opportunity to go back and do that. I'm glad to say 3 years on, I think we're just sitting somewhere under 200,000 followers on these platforms. We're very lucky we've got a brand that people are interested in, which I'd kind of take that on as well. So we're in a very fortunate position there. We also moved from campaign by campaign by campaign, redesigning, rebriefing, new creatives, all that kind of quick turnaround. We wanted to get away from that world, so we moved on to this kind of program-led world where we had basically two key programs running each year. And that was it. The year before that, I think we had something like 80 or 90 campaigns developed and deployed in year. We moved to the programs. It became very simple. There was 2 programs that ran. So very simple to tell our sales teams how they understood and got the story that they could then retell. And also became very simple for our product guys to align the products behind the programs, and for our marketing teams and to lead the appropriate types of content and campaigning. So comm strategy for us was one that we had to sort out. It was effectively a mess. And what happens is that you're creating things in silos. What happens is that they go and they're all running at different speeds, and we had to bring some control to all that strategy. The second piece was around process. Now, hands up, everybody who loves process. Oh God, there is 2, oh, 3, 4, brilliant. I'm a bit of a strange one. I do love process, actually. I love process, I love facts and figures, I love plans, I like to have things documented. Most creative marketers, as we all know, hate process. So one bit of advice to you is love process. Get in there. If you're going to get involved in any kind of transformation, if you're going to do anything at scale, it can't work without processes in place. And it can't work without that process being reviewed by everybody that touches it. So if you try and develop process on your own, the rest of the team won't buy in, the rest of the organisation not interested. So process will become your friend, and ultimately one you rely on more often than your creative, actually, to get things right. We had to look at the whole data side of our business. Our data was managed externally by a third party. It still is within our consumer team, actually. We decided we were going to bring that back in. We brought it in-house. And one of the reasons we brought it in-house was just to get control, because actually there's so much going on around their internal processes and ways of working. It didn't suit our new agile way of working. We wanted to be more agile, more open to quick change and making things happen. And that couldn't happen with the structure we had in place. So we have worked hard now for, this definitely did start 4 years ago, looking at what data we wanted, looking at how we were going to segment it, how we were going to build it in Salesforce, who we wanted to have access to what, all of that program, but getting your house in order around data. We are now getting the benefits of it now. So it's kind of 3 or 4 years worth of real tough work. We have weekly, monthly, quarterly reviews of the data in terms of structure, compliance, governance, around that to give us a real rigour around how we manage our data. And it's done in-house. It's done in-house, so we have 2 people that are responsible for it. So there's no hiding place from that. And it never goes away. Data never goes. We had to realign our whole agency relationships, and this is quite an important one for us, actually. And I've said this before at an event where I talked about it, and all the agency guys stood up and says, "Well, you mean where are we going to be? No agencies, you don't need it." It's not what I was saying. What I was actually saying was we became so reliant on our agencies. Actually, most of my team were actually agency managers. They were just managing other people to deliver our plan, to develop the strategy, to deliver the plan, deliver the assets. And every time, it got really frustrating for me. Every time I then spoke to somebody and said, "What's happening with X campaign or Y project?" And they'd say, "Oh, give us a second, I'll just speak to the agency." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to speak to them. I want you to know what's going on with your programs." So we had to realign the agency support and get away from that. They were definitely, it felt as if we were connected up to them in a life support machine. And actually what we've done is we've kind of broken that a bit. But what we did was, and I said to the agencies that we're working with, we need to rely on you for the things that we can't do or will never do in-house. So we will never bring creativity in-house. We will never bring design in-house. This is where you need the rapidly changing world of agencies to help you, I think, to bring that creativity, keep it fresh, and always having the option to work with various agencies as well on creative. So it's about getting that alignment right, not having them running the business for us, but having them supporting us in the areas where we don't have the expertise and never will. A lot of that had to be said was the same for our sales teams. Now, hands up, who loves the sales guys? Oh, I'm even more surprised. There's more people. I know it's a closed door, so I can say whatever I want. Nobody will retweet this, will we? No. I'm watching the tweets coming in, as it's said. Notoriously hard to get sales and marketing alignment. We all know that. Where we started with our sales organisation was proving the value of what we could deliver. And moving it from a bunch of creative, fluffy guys that came in now and again to talk about lovely new adverts and new pictures and new blue grads and new bubbles and all that nonsense, over to actually, here's what we're talking about: pipeline creation, value creation, sales order value. Where do we focus we can't focus on everything at the one time. How do we have a joined up approach to where you're seeing the major gaps within the sales function, and how can we help plug those gaps? So it became a really honest and frank relationship with the sales teams and sales management. But the more we were armed with ammunition around data, insights, numbers, getting close to the numbers, then there's a lot more respect in the room generally from the sales teams. And glad to say we've maintained that over the last number of years, even with changing heads of sales, as often happens in large organisations. And the last thing around process was all around leading opportunity management. You know, it all sounds very straightforward, but when you've got a complex team of salespeople, technical advisors, sales specialists, different teams within the organisation, having to re-clarify what we meant by a lead, what we meant by an opportunity, what we meant by sales qualified, marketing qualified, all that process has to be worked through in order to get that understanding across the board. So when you're talking about one set of marketing qualified leads, we all understand what that means. We don't try and interpret in different ways. So all that process and all that flow had to be brought together, and don't underestimate the time scales involved in some of that stuff, because it's huge. And the last thing was our own people, my people. What we realised quite early on is that as you move into a new world of new technology, you need to understand the technology. Now again, you could outsource some of that. You can put it out to someone else to manage for you. I'm a great believer in having the skills in-house. So we brought in and trained our, what we classed as our Eloqua Ninja. Everyone should have an Eloqua Ninja, if you use it, only if you use Eloqua, mind you, in your organisation. And she really became responsible for not only keeping us right on the daily deployments and how we do things, but actually on the whole administration of the platform. And again, I would recommend you have that in-house, because again, I've seen other people who try and outsource all that stuff. As soon as you start outsourcing that type of support, it's just, the meter just runs on questions and open questions. So I think I would recommend bringing that expertise in if you can. Everyone in the team, 10 people in the team in business operations, everyone in the last 3 years has changed their job, without any shadow of a doubt. They've changed their responsibility, we have retrained them and supported them, we have upskilled them, and we've created real expertise within the team. So not only when we talk about our transformation around the technology and the new ways of working, we also talk about how motivated and skilled our team is, and how motivated they are. So they became responsible, they took the ownership, they were all up for taking on the new skills and learning new things, I'm glad to say. So working with those guys, and they now feel empowered and impassioned to do the right thing in their role, which is a great place to be with them. So all in equal measure, it's the technology is the easy piece there. In terms of some of the results that we've achieved, we do an internal benchmarking. I don't know if you guys do, around how happy your teams and your staff are. Ours is called Reflect. We run it twice a year. What we realised is, I didn't put any figures in here, but what we realised is that our guys were, in some instances, 25 percentage points better placed than the average of the organisation. And I put that purely down to the fact that they were engaged, they were fully trained, they had all the equipment, and they had all the knowledge to do their job, that they could do their job without relying on lots of other people to make it happen. So giving that responsibility back to them, having the tools of the job to do what they had to do, and give them the responsibility to make decisions. So again, we made lots of mistakes over those 3 years, and I'll come to some of that, but some of the stuff around, the best one I could normally quote is the first area we moved on to Eloqua in terms of automatic email sends internally was our hospitality programme. And we run quite an extensive programme over at the O2 Arena across town, and some of the best artists in the world come to that arena. It's quite sought after tickets, and the first time we had Rihanna playing at O2, that was the very first time we did a deployment via Eloqua. And it was meant to go to about 26 people to get a guest list of 10 agreed. It went to the whole organisation, inviting them to the private box to see Rihanna. So literally within 6 seconds of hitting the button, the team all panicked, into panic mode. What's going to happen? This also went to our board, from the CEO down. And it's probably the highest open rate we've ever had. Bar bar none. I think we had something like 97% open rate and probably about a 96% reply rate, which was great. So we had to reset expectations there. But one of the things was, you know, the guys were absolutely panicking. This is just about a disaster. New technology, we're out there. Actually, it wasn't that big a deal. You know, we just explained to people what was going on. The staff, the guys felt safe that they could go out and make some mistakes and not going to be brought to order over it. And actually, it led to a change in the process. So then we started peer reviewing, which is always a good thing to do before you hit the button. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned in that stuff. In terms of some of the results we've seen in performance, we do an annual audit of our data with the guys at Oracle. They just come back at the end of last year, 97% of our contacts are reachable. Now, that's almost unheard of, literally unheard of. The guys at Oracle thought they'd made a mistake when they're working with us. But I put, a lot of that down to the process we go through before we accept data into the platform. So not all data comes in its raw form by any stretch. So working hard on what we're trying to get out of the data set, what are the interesting bits that we want to include within that, and then how do we manage it on an ongoing basis. Really important to keep on top of it. Data quality is a daily job, 24/7. 365 days a year. It never goes away and you never ever beat it. You just got to keep on top of it. So as long as people know that, we're all in a good place. We've seen a phenomenal increase in our sales, pipeline generated, and closed sales as well from all our channels. Again, we put that down to the not focusing on keeping everybody happy. So it was very much around, we had a strategic opportunity to work with our programs, 2 programs a year, not 60 campaigns. Because we sharpened the focus of the whole team supporting those programs, it became end-to-end, every bit seen efficiency gains. And actually, by the time it got to the end of it, in terms of inside sales, these guys were calling better quality opportunities. We had moved our sales ratio from 10 phone calls to get an appointment down to 5. We halved it in 12 months because we're talking to a warmer audience that were engaged with our content, and we knew we could get in quite safely and have that conversation. So incredible results. And again, when you get back to a sales organisation with that type of change and transformation, they very quickly prick up their ears and want to listen. Because actually, if you can present back to them 10 great opportunities or 50 average opportunities, you know, everybody's busy. So it makes a good way to work with them. We've actually seen, within the first 18 months of having our social channels launched, we've seen 20 million quid which we could attribute back to social engagement, which again is really hard to do in B2B organisations where we don't have a portal that we sell online. But what we're able to do is we have eloquent scripting running across all our social feeds, so every ad that goes out, we trace back. And for the first time ever, our digital guys get quite excited when they realised that they were actually creating revenue, creating turnover for the company, instead of putting into this kind of black hole of shouting at people, you know, never getting anything back. So for me, there's 2 things with social. One's about the engagement, so it's not shouting, it's about having a conversation. But the second thing is we do capture people early on in their engagement, looking at social channels for information. I know myself, I don't go to Google now for insight. I go to Twitter. I look up the guys in B2B marketing or the guys that are talking about the subjects that I want to find out about. I follow them and I get the insights from the guys that I trust as opposed to looking elsewhere. The engagement rose across all our content. Part of this, when we talked about the having to look at your content strategy and what you were doing, our content guys were probably producing 3 or 4 times the volume of content we actually needed in reality. And actually, when you start narrowing it down into key customer journeys along a program, then actually you can really start to consolidate the effort around content delivery. And what we've seen is that by producing less content, we were actually getting far better engagement across each of those individual assets. So again, figures that you can't escape. Figures speak for themselves. They come straight from the platform. We can see where assets work and assets don't work, and we can feed that back into the content team to say it's either a success or a failure. And we have some criteria around that. We also go through things like, again, just things into my mind, things like best practice. We have a best practice call every Friday. Every email that leaves O2's business to business ops team goes through a best practice call on a Friday. The last chance for everybody to have a look at it, bring in some best practice that we might have missed, make sure we're sticking to consistent kind of learning, and that happens every Friday before things are deployed the next week. So again, back to process. So when engagement levels went way up, 25% of our base were actually engaging with our content, which again, until you've got the platforms, you don't have that insight. So knowing where they're looking, what they're looking at, how long they're there, where they're going on their journey, all absolutely imperative in how you're building your future programs. Now, getting the attention of your CFO is really important in all this stuff. That line at the bottom, second bottom, did it. One meeting. We talked about how much we were going to invest in the new technology, how much we're going to invest in the transformation over the next 2 years. We then told them how much we're going to save right away. And there's 400 grand saving per year and been saved per year for the last 4 years. So £1.6 million of savings made over the last 4 years. That was minuscule. You know, the investment to make it happen was a tenth of that. So, you get the attention very quickly, very early, know your numbers, get in front of them, give them that back, then it becomes very hard to argue against in terms of your conversation. And as I said, we're now rolling out our automation into the mid-market section. It became very much a shining light within O2, the way we do things in enterprise. And about a year ago, we sat and we looked at how could we possibly share this with our mid-market colleagues. Delighted to say 12 months on, something that took us 3 years, we've now implemented in mid-market within about 10 months. So they're now fully up and running. They've got the whole same functionality, same processes in place, same governance around how we do things, changing their campaigning to programming, their methodology. They've reaped the reward far quicker than we did in enterprise, but we've actually got the whole. So it's really there's only one segment in business that's not on our platforms, and that's our Soho business, our singleton business, which is more closely aligned to our consumer business in reality. So we'll probably leave that. And it's more about the buyer behaviour as opposed to not being able to cope with it. So we're pretty much taking over all the rest of the B2B segment. We're running it in the same way and providing the same insights and reports off the back of it. So that's a bit about where we've been, what we've done. The whole focus is all around, as a leader, what have I learned? So maybe just share some of that with you. This is the last section. What I would recommend is you're the one that's got to be passionate. If you aren't passionate about it, no one else will be passionate about it. You're the chief storyteller, the chief cheerleader, the chief guy who's going to go in and have that vision and have the determination to see it through. There are numerous brick walls that will appear hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. You've got to be the guy who's going to have to break that down and have the vision. If you lose heart in it, it won't happen because everyone else will quickly lose interest as well. Taking your people on the journey with you. I'm really fortunate. I've got an amazing team. We've not lost anybody in the team in 4 years. Started off with still got the same team we started off this programme with. You've got to win their hearts and minds really quickly. Get them involved, let them understand the vision, show them how they're going to be part of it, talk about the skill set change that they're going to have, really get them on the journey with you, and actually they'll blast through the barriers as well for you. It's not just a one-man job, it's the whole team needs to get behind you. Balancing that company versus customer needs piece, we had some real great use cases around our customer journey orchestration, if you like, at the time. All about our automated journeys, where we were going to take people, how customers would interact and get access and self-serve. We understood that. We knew the vision of the new world we were moving to, so we could see that. Quite well. But you've got to take that story back in. So again, winning the hearts and minds of the internal team, your financial guys, your operational teams, they've got to understand and be on that same objective. They all have their own roadmaps, as we did, and it's that alignment. You've got to be able to influence and work with those guys to get a parity that it's a win-win for everybody. And the larger the organisation, the more complex it is, the more stakeholders you've got. So keeping an eye on keeping that company versus customer piece. And actually marketing is the customer champion. If you lose sight of that, you're as well just walking out the door, to be honest. You're there to be the voice of the customer. So in that conversation, you need to put on their hat and walk in their shoes, whilst acknowledging the restrictions or the caveats within the company and its own development. It's no good just managing your own team. It's no good just managing your peers. You've got to manage up as well. So telling that story that you're passionate about is just as important and in the right way, because the story you tell to your team can't be the same story you tell to your peers, because all your peers are going to be talking to, they need to change their process, they need to work in with the new way of working. You don't get them on side, they can block it just as easily as anybody else. And actually, these are people you don't have direct control over. So you need to work with them, you've got to influence them, you've got to get them on side and working with you. And the story we told to our senior guys, the kind of directors at O2, was all about the revenue. Know your numbers, know where you're going, make sure that you can prove the value and the return from it. We've seen a massive opportunity in a phased approach in terms of the rollout. So use POC, proof of concepts, use pilots, however you can get it through to get it up and running, use those that you have at your disposal. We had this, I've kind of, as a person, trying to always balance the sense of urgency with flexibility. So I'm always wanting stuff quicker than I can actually get them. But actually, you've got to keep that with being flexible and being patient. So other guys won't operate at that speed. So you need to make sure you keep a balance around that urgency. And above all else, I think with the team, if any of them were here today, giving them the power to make it happen. So have them empowered to do that, have them trained, they're fully trusted to make their own decisions. If things go wrong, they go wrong. Hey, things go wrong all the time. Support them when things go wrong and we find solutions. So really supporting them and getting behind it as a leader is kind of where you need to be, in my opinion, my humble opinion. And I think I'm getting thrown an anchor to say get off, which is quite fortunate because I think that is the last one. I don't know if there's any questions. I don't know what you're...